Nathan here with Tabletop Apprentice with our T1 series video, The Mage. Now, get ready for the obligatory intro. This series is going to show you the basics of painting while trying to keep the number of paints down to keep the cost cheap while you get started in the hobby. And as always, if a mage isn't up your alley, that's fine. The entire T1 series exists just for you. We are halfway through our fantasy role-playing minis in the series, and soon we're going to be moving on to our wargaming minis and some exciting new surprises. Now let's just take a quick look at what paints we're going to be using on this mini before we get started. You're going to need Bugman's Glow, Kislev Flesh, Xandri Dust, White Scar, Corn Red, Retributor Armor, Abaddon Black, and Nuln Oil. And optionally, you can get your hands on Lead Belcher, Everland Sunset, Flash Gets Yellow, Steel Legion Drab, Castellan Green, Warpstone Glow, Snarsnicked Green, Seraphim Sepia, and Reichland Flesh Shade. For the bare minimum of getting a good-looking model, you're looking at about $45 worth of paints. While if you want to replicate exactly what I did in this video, you're probably looking at an extra $55. And of course, you don't have to get all the optional paints at once. You can just grab a couple of them here and there if you like certain colors or you plan on using colors more than others. Now, without further ado, let's hop right into it. So today we're going to be working on, well, you know, she doesn't really have a name. She's from Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures line from D&D. And she's going to be a fantastic miniature to start learning on. She's got a lot of cloth, and once again, she's got a lot of these pre-separated bits and trimmings all over the place, which is going to make it really easy for us beginners to paint today. Now, I'll put a link in the doobly-doo if you want to go and pick her up yourself. So, let's hop into things. First off, as always, we're going to be applying our Bugman's Glow. We're going to do our flesh tones first and foremost, flesh tones. And we're just going to quickly apply the Bugman's Glow there. And then we're just going to quickly apply that dry brush of Kislev Flesh. And I'm just zipping through the flesh tones right now. If you really want an in-depth look into flesh tones and how you might make yourself better at them, I recommend you go and take a look at my Barbarian video, because there's lots of flesh tones and a lot of space to practice. Next we move on to the base of our model, the big color that we're going to slather all her robes in, and I wanted to do it in white because white robes are awesome, and a lot of people are going to tell you white is hard to do. But there's a cheat. Go off-white to start with. So we're going to apply Xandri Dust. You might think, whoa, that's not white. Well, you just wait and see. And just a quick tip here before we zip on off to this color being finished. Feel free to switch between your brushes when you're painting something. You see, I started with my dry brush because it's nice and big and I just slathered it on there. But now that we're starting to get closer to the flesh tones that we've already finished, I'm switching to my base brush or maybe your detail brush, whatever you feel more comfortable with. Note that finish for the most part. I like to leave the top of the head of my models unpainted so I can get a better grab at the model. I know there are ways around this and we'll cover that in other videos, but we're going to move on to White Scar. We're going to make these robes actually look white. Now, we're going to be dry brushing liberally onto the Xandri Dust that we already have going. And sadly, no, this approach to things isn't going to get you just a perfectly white robe, but for beginners, this is the easiest way that you're going to be able to do it. Now, with that done, we're going to move on to the secondary color of our model, and that's going to be red because I like red. It's nice and evocative, but you can replace any color that you really want in here. A lot of stuff's going to go well with white and gold and the colors that we're going to be using on it. Now we have an excellent learning experience because of a big oopsie that I did, and proof that even an oopsie can be turned into something really nice. So you can see there's a large seam going on there on the model, and I didn't really notice that when I was filing. I thought that was part of the design on the model already, so I decided, heck, I'm just going to incorporate it into the design of the model. Which you're not always going to be able to do, but hopefully you can look at this and try and think of other ways that you can fix mistakes that might come up on your own models. Then as we move on to other parts of the model with the red, I just wanted to show you guys quickly that you can really just slather that red with your detail brush. Obviously, don't hit the white parts, but you can go ahead and really run through that center bit, and we'll worry about the stitches later in the video. Now let's just get through the trim quickly, because I really don't have that many tips and tricks to offer during it. I would recommend that you do use your detail brush during it, just because there are some challenging angles, and you want to make sure that you're not damaging that white that we worked so hard to get. Now, I hope I don't give you guys artistic whiplash over this next little bit here, but as you know, I've got a very organic painting process, so we're going to be hopping around a little bit. First up is corn red, and we're just applying that in this little middle area on the front pouch that she has. Then I just wanted to clean up above the pouch and get that center chest piece that she has under her robes done. So we're going to start with Abaddon Black on that. And then we just pop back on over to that pouch, and we're just going to throw some Mournfang Brown on there. I used my detail brush just because I wanted to make sure that, again, I wasn't damaging all this stuff that we've already painted around it. Now make sure that you get around those edges just like that, and let's move on. The front area is starting to come together, so let's just quickly add the stitches down that front bit, and I use Xandri dust and just your detail brush, and just barely ever so lightly graze from left to right across it, slowly lowering your brush, and that will hopefully, as it does for me, get you a good result. And then furthering the finish on the front quickly, we're just going to grab our white fang again and do a quick dry brush over her chest where we put the Abaddon Black, because that's going to give us a really nice contrast. And you don't have to be very careful here, you can just have at her, because everything around it has already been dry brushed white. And then just a quick slam back to the Retributor armor as we just do this trim on the very outside, because then we're going to go and do, boom, Lead Belcher on the interior. Remember that separation of color, the more colors that you can get on a model, usually the better it's going to look. But, of course, money is always a factor in things, so don't feel pushed to get all of your colors right away. Your models will look better and better as you get better and better, and your paint collection gets better and better. Speaking of limited paints, let's go to one that we know we already have, and that's Xandri dust, and we're just going to do it across those ropes along her right-hand side. And just use your detail brush, take your time with it. And then we're going to move back on over to her front, and we're going to be applying Everland Sunset to the sash there. Now, I do apologize again about my painting method. I really take things as they go and stride by stride, but hopefully this is going to help you as a beginner, because then you can change any color on this model as you want during this painting process. I don't just lay out all of the same colors and give you a systematic way to paint a model and make it look good. Make it look good on your own. Feel free to change some colors, especially if you have some that are not included in this video. And with my little side note finished there, we have more getting done on the front. Let's go back and we'll finish the side this time. We're going to apply some Lead Belcher on the chains across her right-hand side. And then there's a little pouch there, so we're just going to grab our Mournfang Brown and just quickly hit it with our detail brush. Now you can skip this next part and just do it in Mournfang Brown, but I want to show it to you for those that are willing to go out and get more paints and the neat things that you can do with them. So we're going to start with Castellan Green as our base tone on this little pouch on the front. Then a very soft and a very quick dry brush of Warpstone Glow. Make sure you use your really small dry brush here because you don't want to upset anything else, and just do it very lightly, that way that you're not getting it on anything else. It should just show up on the green pouch. And finally, we are going to do exactly the same thing, except this time even lighter and smaller in Snarsnick Green, and we're just going to do that in as small of a portion as we can, and you get a really cool looking effect from these three colors. And back onto something for everybody, we're just going to use Lead Belcher again to quickly paint the staff. Now you could go with a brown or a tan, whatever you really want for the staff. I wanted to go metal to give it more authority. It looks more expensive, and thus it denotes more authority out of your character. And now we're up to the headpiece of the staff, and once again, this is really up to you. You could have just painted it the same color as the staff. It totally works, but I wanted to do something a little more fancy, so I grabbed my Everland Sunset and quickly laid that down. And to sort of make it pop a little bit more, I used Flash Gits Yellow and just a quick dry brush to give it that extra pop. Then comes the most daunting task of painting a wizard model, their bloody book. Now we're going to try and keep things simple for you and still make it look really nice. So we're just going to start with Corn Red quickly, and we're going to do it on the outside. Really making sure that we get all the edges on the book. This is something that's going to draw a lot of attention from people that are looking at your minis, so make sure that you get all those little edges and things sorted with red. Then we're going to do the pages, and once again we're looking towards Xandri dust, and you're thinking, man, he is crazy, we've used that so much. But in this episode of the T1 series, I'm going to show you some crazy stuff that we can do with washes together. With our Xandri dust laid down nice and thick, we are ready to start putting some stuff on the pages, and I will apologize for my lighting change right here. My light bulb went out, and the only one I had lying around was a yellow one, so enjoy the new lighting, I guess. As we move on to Abaddon Black for our first color on the book, and you're going to want to get your finest detail brush that you humanly can, and then go ahead and dip it in your black, and you can see that I kind of dip a little bit onto my thumb, get all that excess off, and then just barely squiggle it across the page, and hopefully it's going to look like how I made it look. And if not, hey, just paint over it with the Xandri dust, try again. You just want to make it look nice and squiggly and like there is something written in miniature there. Because, as you can see, even I mess up on that stuff. I had to quickly go over it again. So, we've got our black down, and you can do that for the whole book, but I want to try some other stuff out. So we're going to be using corn red, and we're going to do writing and blood in the tome, and just kind of have at her, you know, have some fun with it, try a couple different lines and shapes to make things look cool. And with the one page done, let's try some other funky stuff on this page. We'll do a whole page written in mostly blood. Maybe we'll throw in some black in there if we need to. And you know what? Looking back to it, this design is a little reminiscent of the Barbarian's shoulder plate that I did in my other T1 video, which is really neat and kind of pulls the two together. And I just kind of went crazy. I did a couple lines. I messed up. I repainted Xandri dust and just kind of had fun with it and use your artistic license to try some stuff out. And now that our awesome looking book is done, we're going to move along and get some more stuff done. We've got our corn red out. So there's little bits and pieces on our front end here that you can see that I wanted to do up in red. And then I went around and wanted to do her cuffs. Now feel free to twist and turn the model all over the place so that you can get a good look and a good line on those cuffs. That's the real trick behind doing these kind of circular objects. And now with our front done, it's time to start working on the back, so we're just going to grab that Retributor armor again, and we're going to run it along the little trim that she's got over the shawl on her back. And you can see I made sure to leave a little bit of a gap when I was laying in that auric armor, so that it really looks like it is trim. There's still Xandri dust and white throughout the core of that little bit there. Then we move on to these little accessories on her back, you know, maybe they're pouches, whatever they are, I mean, badges. I went a little bit crazy on this. Honestly, you can leave it as is. It looks pretty decent, but if not, grab your Everland Sunset and go away on the sides of these little badges, spangles, whatever they are. Then grab your corn red and put it over the majority area, the bulbousy bit on these decorations. And once again, twisting and turning your model around so that you can get the proper vantage point, what you're trying to paint, is very key here. And for that last flare to make them look extra ostentatious and shiny, I grabbed the Retributor armor again and did the top little flaps of it. And with that, we are nearly done. I just quickly skipped ahead. I did the top shawl, just throw down your Xandri dust, give it a dry brush with your white scar, and then we can move on to the shawl's trim, and this time I decided to use corn red instead of the gold that we've been using for the trim everywhere else. And this is just again to kind of mix up the colors, try and make things non-symmetrical. Don't always go to the same color pool when you come across a similar thing on the model. Our epic looking model is very nearly done. We're just going to quickly move along to the base, and I used Steel Legion Drab for the base tone of it, and it can be a little bit difficult to get underneath the robes that she has, but just crick and crane the model, turn it around a little bit here and there, and you should be able to get it all. And hey, if you can't paint it, it's very unlikely that people are going to be able to see it. So, you know, little peace of mind, at least for beginners. And then it's time for just a quick little dry brush of Xandri dust. It's really not that important, but it really helps bring together the model and gets you used to laying down more layers on everything. Now it is time for the magic that is the wash. We're going to be using Null Oil, and we're going to be covering everything except the flesh tones and the pages of the book. The scarlet of the book we're going to want to get with the Null Oil, but not the pages, and you'll see why right away. And for those of you that are new, for those of you that this is your first model, play around with the Null Oil a little bit. Play around with the wash because it's going to collect in areas and you may want to, take some away or add some more to certain areas. It really is dealer's choice when it comes to laying down your shades. And once again, don't be afraid to switch up your brushes a little bit when you're applying the shades, because when I got to the shawl and to the places that are close to the stuff that I don't want the Null Oil to touch, I took out one of my other brushes and used that. And now comes one of the really fun parts. I gotta show you guys the magic that is different colors of shades. We're applying Seraphim Sepia to this Xandri dust, and boy does it make it look different. We get this very old, archaic look out of the paper, like it's yellowing. And finally, we move on to our last flesh tone here, and that is the Reichland Flesh Shade. And we're just going to apply that to all the flesh tones, the hands and the face, and we're done! Thank you all for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you are going to join me on the journey that we take together to do our entire T1 series. Until next time, later, Internet.